Hello, everybody. Hello, it's Truth Bomb time. This is Jay Scott, aka Crypto Cowboy.
Hey, it's Sandy, Freedom Faith Warrior, coming to you.
All right, mugs up, everybody. Let's get ready for some Truth Bomb. All right, all right, all right. All is good in the world. Today is, well, what's today? June 7th. Wow, summer is here, baby.
Yes.
Even in Montana, summer's here.
Love it.
It took a long time. I noticed that you were calling summer, like in May, you were like calling it summer. And I'm sure, in Virginia, I'm sure that's the case. But in Montana, it just became summer yesterday.
Yeah, we get it a little early and we keep it a little longer.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah, no, it's been gorgeous. We were just talking before the show about getting out on our bikes, and it was beautiful. I got out on my bike yesterday and felt so good.
Same here. I was at the beach.
See, I was in the mountains. You were in the beach. All right, we have it all covered. Awesome. All right, well, we got a couple of really cool topics today. We're going to be talking about, well, it's interesting because Sandy's got some really interesting overarching topics today, right? You're going to be talking about truth and stability, right?
Right.
And I'm going to be talking specifically on some more C-19 vaccination issues. And to kick this off, I wanted to just kind of talk about why am I talking about that kind of stuff? I mean, we're on the Freedom Life 3.0 show, the Truth Bomb show, and for me, the C-19 was a big wake up call for me. I, as I've mentioned before, was really bought in hook, line, and sinker to the whole narrative that was being pushed out. I got jabbed 3 times, and I realized afterwards, after things started to settle down, that, man, we weren't really being told everything that was going on. And in fact, it really appears that what I thought and what many people thought was our leaders with our own best interest at heart might not have been the case, especially when we're talking about this vaccine. And when you start to unpack how much money was on the table for these pharmaceutical companies, and then how much deception and out and or just rush to push this thing out, you realize that the whole system is a little bit suspect. And when I woke up to this, I spent most of my life I grew up in this sort of family that really just embraced it all. America, apple pie, God and country, and just the whole 9 yards. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what it did is as I grew up and became an adult, I just kind of plowed into life like all of us do, right? Corporate job, family, everything that it takes, and sort of head down. And I didn't have a lot of time to investigate. And so, it used to be, especially when I was growing up, that you could watch the national news and pretty much get the story. I mean, there was always probably a little bit of governmental collusion in there, but for the most part, journalism seemed to be a noble profession at that time. And it's really changed. And now that we know that, corporations own all the news media, and we know there's a narrative there, and the government and the media, collude quite a bit. That I kind of understood as an adult, but I also bought into the narrative of the fear that they really pushed out when C-19 came out, and it really got bad. The more you look at it, some of the examples of, and you might bring up and talk about Dr. Fauci because I think he's been in the news lately, but he just really poured it on, like kind of in a nice jovial way, but it's just like, you're all going to die unless you take this thing, and it was. So anyway, so I bought into the narrative, and afterwards I'm kind of waking up, and I've also had some health problems that have, some of it is a little bit unexplained, and I got to wonder if some of this could be vaccine related. I don't know. But it has opened my eyes quite a bit. Crypto actually opened up my eyes to this whole concept. When I got into crypto and I really dug in deep, and I realized that the current financial system was very corrupt, very inefficient, full of people that really didn't have our own personal interests. And the whole Fed thing about, and the whole thing about the rich just getting richer on the way the economy runs and the way it's set up. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, the way that system is set up. Now, crypto is a new system that, potentially could even the playing field. And so that was my base. And then after the C-19 thing and I sort of woke up, this is why it's really still important for me to continue to talk about some of the issues that come out now about C-19 and about the vaccine, because it was really personal to me. And I know it was personal to a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And so that's why I just want to kind of explain, why I'm bringing this up, because I'm not trying to dive into conspiracy theories. I'm not really even trying to blame individuals. Like, Fauci was just part of the system, that was set up. That we sort of have here. And ultimately, it's really to wake myself up and say, look, we got to pay closer attention to this kind of stuff, to this kind of narrative, because there's going to be another one that's going to come out. There's going to be more and more narratives. I want to be woke up to this fact, look at it, and I'm still going to have to make a decision, but I'm not going to easily follow the narrative, that's for sure. So what I wanted to talk about with that little long introduction was, let me share my screen here. Let's see if this works today. Okay, I think that is, let me get this out of the way here. Okay, so I call this the unseen vaccine crisis. And we're just finding out more and more about a lot of vaccine injuries. And a lot of it has to do with the way they rushed this vaccine into production and then development and then out in our arms. And what this graphic shows here is at the top is a normal trial that takes all these different phases, and they do them in order. They don't move to the next phase until the first phase is done. And look, so we're at least 3 years, if not more. A lot more by the time it's manufactured and distributed. Okay, we all kind of knew that. They did tell us that. They said they're going to compress this. They have to compress this. And before I go on, I do want to recognize that we were in an unprecedented situation in modern times. And there were a lot of people that I think might have started off with good intentions. And I think there were a lot of scientists that might have been excited about this. And even at the time, I bought into this narrative where they compressed the, let me see. Back over here. Okay, I'm trying to move this. Why aren't you going? Okay, there we go. So they compressed the time, right? And I bought into that narrative. I'm like, okay, I get this, and there was a lot of information talking about, we've been working on these mRNA vaccines or drugs, if you will, for years now. We haven't really, pulled the trigger on this stuff. And now is the advent of this. And I can imagine if I'm a scientist and I've been working on this for a long time, they were looking into this for cancer, for lots of different things. And then this opportunity comes along. And, I got to wonder again if the opportunity was manufactured, right, Sandy? We've talked about, that they had these trials of a virus being released, right before, and then boom, it really happens. But, from a scientist's perspective, you're like, yeah. And from a pharmaceuticals perspective, some of the theory floating out here, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because I don't really have any proof. I'm not sure anyone does. That they knew they were working on these type of mRNA type of drugs, if you will, and they had theorized that this would work great in a vaccine. And if you just think about it, if you've got the whole world that is so fearful that the only solution is this pharmaceutical drug. You can't really call it a vaccine. There's a lot of proof now that it is not a traditional vaccine. It's a therapy, if you will. That, they'd be like, yeah, man, let's secretly, they're like, let's bring this on. Let's, we want our life's work to mean something. Okay, that's good. But when they did the trials, and this is what we're going to talk about today. When they did the trials, they found a lot of problems. And because they were rushing, they also cut corners. And I guess we kind of knew that going on, but now I think about it, and
Operation Warp Speed, remember?
Warp Speed. What does that mean?
Yeah.
We're going to go as fast as we possibly can. Well, that can't be very safe. But I'll tell you what, I remember them saying that. It's not like they didn't tell us that. They did. But it just sounded like, okay, I don't know. At least for me, I'm like,
we're not going to hold any companies liable. They told you that too, right up front.
You're right. And yeah.
That's what made me suspect.
The whole thing, green light to let's just experiment, and at the time though, I bought into that. I'm like, now it sounds crazy. Like, how was I okay with that? But I was, because they did tell us that. And I'm just like, oh my.
So anybody that's going to be fraudulent will actually tell you before they fraud you.
That's a really good point. That's part of persuasion, and right. They kind of warm you up.
And because it's like planting a seed. So they planted the seed. They said, hey, we're going to tell you, but we're just not going to tell you all the details of that.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. So what they did in the trials was that, in this image here, they had contractors that would help them with the trials. So this company down here, this Ventavia, was a research group. They'd hired Ventavia to help them do the clinical trials and do the research. And so there was this woman named Brooke Jackson, who was a contractor, I think, even worked for Ventavia, and she was a researcher and a clinical trial auditor, actually. And what she found was all sorts of major problems during, the trials, and she attributed that to how fast they were going, and they were just cutting corners. And she was like, "Whoa, wait, we can't do that. We can't do that." And she found all sorts of falsified signatures, fraudulent data, in what they were working on. And she's an auditor. That's what she's supposed to do. And she's on the team. And they're like, oh, and so she would bring up this stuff. One of them was interesting. She's like, the vaccines have to be at least at negative 70 degrees. And a lot of times they weren't. They weren't even paying attention to that. And so she started to bubble this up to her management. And the owner of Ventavia, who, it wasn't a medical doctor, didn't have any sort of research background, just was a business owner that, created this research company and hired people out. But she was in charge of what happened with that company. And so when Brooke Jackson rolled this information up to her, of course, she's like, oh, well, no, we're not going to tell anybody that. Like, if we disclose some of this stuff, they'll fire us. Now, that's what a business owner would think and would do. But is this the system that you would want to set up for pharmaceutical clinical trials that are going to have things go into our body? I mean, this is sort of human nature. I don't blame that owner of Ventavia. That's what a business owner would do. They're like, well, if we're going to get fired, why would we tell them that? And so it's just, the whole thing is sort of insidious. It just shows me more like the system is just so broken. I wish that this person would have stood up and, done the right thing. But, in a lot of ways, as a business owner, that was her only livelihood. And she knew, and Brooke Jackson didn't have to either. She could have said, well, I'm getting paid good money to do this. I could get fired if I roll this up, but she did do it.
Oh, there's a cancel culture out there. So.
Oh, yeah.
So her company would have been on the cancel culture list.
Totally.
Immediately.
Right. And Pfizer, super.
Remember what they were doing to people who were opposing any type of anything at that time? That cancel culture, they attacked people. Like they attacked them on social media. They were attacking celebrities who were speaking out saying, I don't know. And they were just, I mean, it was I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I was like,
Yeah.
this is over a virus. This is over a, vaccine.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was, and people were so polarized at the time, that if you didn't take it, that you were killing other people. It was insane. It was insane.
Well, and then it became political.
Because I unfortunately had to put up with stuff like that myself, and I wanted more information. So I'm a person that wants more information before I do something. So, looking at the data, knowing and coming from a healthcare perspective in my past of helping facilitate a double-blind study and understanding how it all works, and the hoops that are jumped through and how many years it takes to actually get something in production as far as medication. I was part of that whole culture, so I knew how it's supposed to work. And when I could see that they were cutting the corners, I could see from just a layman that there's no way that they could get this thing rolling out that quickly without major testing.
Yeah.
And so my logical brain said, I'm not going to do anything until I see more data. I'm not going to do anything until I see what's in it. I'm not going to do anything until I see what the side effects are.
Yeah,
So,
I remember
that's
those
just me
those days.
using
Like
my reasoning. Yeah.
those days, I was like, my reasoning was, yeah, that makes sense. I wish I could do that too, but we don't know if we're going to grow 3 legs or horns or whatever, right? But that would be years probably to figure that out. And I'm like, well, we don't have time for that. And of course, that's what they were telling us. We don't have time for this. That's why we have to push this. Another
They used fear.
They used fear.
Fear as the precipice for it. So
another part of this.
Fear.
Another part of this story, and I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here, but this is some of the information now that is starting to come out. We've heard a lot of people that come out that either think or there's some proof with myocarditis of the vaccine injury is what they're calling it. And but here's one I thought was really interesting. This mother, her name was Stephanie DeGary, and she signed her whole family up for the clinical trials. And she was all in on this, and she wanted to be part of the new, the clinical trials to get this up and going. And all 3 of her, I think she had 2 sons and a daughter. The boys, I think, were fine, but the daughter, immediately after she got the first dose, started having a lot of these symptoms. And there's all these symptoms that I'm listing here she started having. She went to the ER 9 times. She was hospitalized 3 times. And for 63 days, she experienced these 35 different adverse events, all of these. Wow. At some point was incapacitated, was having convulsions, everything. God. And it was a terrible reaction, to this. Now, she was in the trial, and her mother's response was, well, so what ended up happening was that when Pfizer collected this data, they collected her data, and I guess what the doctors basically, and I don't know if this was forged or whatever, but the doctors basically said, they didn't have a diagnosis really for her, and they said, but it ended up being diagnosed as functional abdominal pain. And the mother said, in other words, they basically said that she had a stomach ache. And she's like, does your child, have convulsions? Is she, does she have to be on a feeding tube? Because she was apparently. Is she in a wheelchair for a stomach ache? Is that a stomach ache? Does that sound like a stomach ache to you?
Wow.
She's like, when I signed up for this, what I thought was that if anything, on the small chance that anything would happen, she was all bought into the narrative. She says, but on the small chance that something could happen, I thought that because I was in this trial and I was like stepping up, that I would be in good hands, that if anything happened, I would get extra special treatment. I would have all the doctors at disposal. And she's like, but you know what? That's not what happened. She said that neither Pfizer, the FDA, the CDC has ever attempted to talk to them. Never talked to them.
Wow.
And when I read this, I thought this was shocking because, I could see myself thinking that thing too. It's like, I'm going to be in the trial, and if anything does happen, well, there's special attention on me. They'll help, and none of that happened. It was the absolute opposite. And it's just shocking. That just shocked me. And it's horrible. It's, it really is horrible. And I get it that there's a lot of horrible things out there, a lot of diseases, but again, kind of going back to where I started with this, it's like, I do not want to spend a lot of my time going down rabbit holes and conspiracy theories. I don't feel that this is that. I'm looking at doctors now that were canceled, that literally lost their licenses because they were speaking out against the narrative of all of it. Right.
So that comes to question, is a conspiracy theory conspiracy if it's truth?
Yeah, I don't, that's a good point. Maybe you can answer that. The word conspiracy theory is thrown out there a lot.
I can answer it, but I can imply it.
Right. Well, right. I mean, those are big words. Those are big topics, and I think that word conspiracy is it's thrown around a lot. I use it because, and I don't know if it's effective. Maybe you guys can tell me, for me, a conspiracy is you don't know the truth, and it's this ample playground to just go off the deep end, to just throw in any idea, anything out there, and that's all kind of part of the conspiracy. And usually there is one or two little nuggets of proven truth, and then you add in all these other things that really can't be proven, but sometimes they're damn fun to occupy your mind with, and people love it, and I get it. I love it too, but I find that you can spend a lot of time, and next thing you know, you're 2 hours into this. And who hasn't done it? I've done it. We've all done it. But what I really want to try to bump up against, because a lot of the topics we're going to talk about, when we talk about freedom, what that is, like real freedom in our lives, especially against the global elite that might be trying to hold us down, keep us small, sick, feeble. Yes. We're going to bump up against a lot of conspiracy stuff. And so I'm always kind of like, okay, we're going to bump up against it, but I don't really want to cross that line. We will occasionally, and that's okay. But
have you seen that film from Mel Gibson, Conspiracy Theory?
Oh, I think I did. It's been a long time though.
Yes,
I don't.
It's 1997. I was just looking up the year because I was like, when did that movie come out? That impacted me. I
got to go watch that again. Yeah.
Mel Gibson. He's been canceled. He's now canceled, by the way.
Yeah.
You might not want to watch it because he's canceled. Anyway.
Right.
He been canceled. Anyway. So, it's interesting. Sorry.
Sorry.
How
dog sitting.
Yeah. Dogs. Yeah. So he's got a new one out called Confidential Informant, which I haven't seen that one yet. That's kind of new. It's like 2023. But like I said, he did that movie a long time ago, and remember they thought he was crazy. And then
it's funny. Some of these, crazy. I wish I could remember the names, but there are some canceled actors that are kind of getting together again and kind of coming up with funding to kind of fund their own shows now, where they can speak the truth, or their truth anyways, and don't have to be ruled by Hollywood as much. But he and a couple other actors are going to put together some kind of show that I thought that was really interesting timing.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, well, so there we go. There's a little.
Sorry, that's what I was looking.
There was
for.
a little there was a little information on that. I will be bringing more of that information out, just because the point that I'm trying to learn for myself and trying to help maybe some others is that, yeah, let's look at some of this evidence now that we've had time to pull this out.
So when I was in healthcare, I'm from healthcare, 30 years. Okay. What I learned the most, even though I worked in healthcare and I was in administrative side, is that a patient has to be their own advocate. You always have to be your own advocate as a patient. You always have to know what's really going on. Everybody goes, oh, why are you looking at your lab results? Because I want to see what the lab results say. Because really, you can look at your own lab results and see if something's in a normal range. They post it right on there. So be clear, if you see something that's off, ask your doctor when you go into that appointment, because they might not have caught it. So those are the things that is important. You have to be your own patient advocate. I know this from working on all sides of the healthcare spectrum, from claims to psychiatry to PCP to pediatrics, everything. And a parent has to be an advocate for their child. So you have to push. It's unfortunate, but they won't listen to you until you push.
Yeah.
You have to push the issues, because if you don't, they'll just gloss it over and on to the next patient.
Well, and
it's
also
not their fault. And I'm going to tell you right now,
system.
I respect doctors and physicians and nurses and everything. It's not their fault. It's the way the system's set up right now.
And that's the sad part.
They only give them 5 minutes.
That's the sad part, right? Because these are good people that have to make a living and do, they want to practice, they want to help people, and they do. They help a lot of people, and unfortunately,
they have a Pollyanna mindset when they go in, and when they get in, they realize it's a corporate mindset and a whole different ballgame. It's not even the same as what they think. They think they're going to help people. They're going to be able to really dive down. The best doctors I know are internal medicine doctors, because they get to slot more time with a patient. So I always recommend to people, go to an internal medicine doctor if you can, because they usually have done more studies, and they're getting their degrees, studying all types of things, not just one specialized thing. So internal medicine doctors are great. So are DOs. So
yeah, anyway. I like the DOs. I actually like some of the PAs. They're in the, but they're still in the system. Yeah, like I said, there's good people.
I'm going to advocate to say it's not their fault, and that's why you have to advocate for yourself. You have to look at your labs. You have to make sure that they covered everything. You have to make sure of the questions that you want answered in your appointments. Don't just go in there and like, oh, my doctor's going to tell me. No, you're going to go in there and go, I have questions about my health, and these are what they are, and get them answered. And can I get a test for this? Can you send me to a specialist? Can you you have to do the homework yourself.
I want to, add on to that.
Your physician. Yeah.
I want to add on to that part of the other thing that we can do too is, unfortunately, it costs money. If you can afford it, you can go outside the system a little bit. There are doctors now that have just said, look, I'm going out of the system. I'm not going to collect insurance. I'm going to.
They're called concierge.
Concierge. Okay. And I'm going to do my own thing. And, they cost more. It's just, that's part of the deal. The other thing is, some of these doctors have gone on to go into wellness clinics, which, it kind of muddies the water, because they're not overseen by the system or whatever. But like, I bought this C19, emergency health kit, from one of these canceled doctors that put together, some supplements, and, they have ivermectin in there. They've got all that stuff that was sort of canceled out, that this stuff works. And so if I get the dreaded C again, I have this little health kit of really good medicine that wasn't in the pharmaceutical thing. It's part of the reason that ivermectin
I
and
have
some
the
of
one
these.
that starts with the H.
Yeah. So, anyways,
I have
that's
the
another
H
option.
and the Z pack and the vitamin D,
Yep.
zinc. You have to do your own homework. You really do. I mean, you cannot let other people just, you have to take control of your own. And we're going to talk about some stability things in a second. And that's what I'll be talking about.
Let's do it.
Stability and truth. So, all right. Well, my topics today is not on an actual subject. It's kind of in a general way about lots of subjects, but I want to lay the framework of what I want to talk about going forward. So I want to talk about stability and I want to talk about truth. So let's start with stability. And Scott, okay. So and I used good old Google because, Google is accepted by all. you know but anyway, this is stability in a sentence. And what I liked is how in the Merriam-Webster it brought up examples of current sentences. Okay, so we can scroll down to the next one because that's really what I want to talk about. So in May, oh, hold on, too far.
Oh,
I
okay.
meant
Down.
the second paragraph.
Oh,
Diversify retirement investments to handle market fluctuations and secure long-term stability. So that's from somebody in Essence magazine, obviously, who is using the word stability in the financial realm, in the retirement realm. And I'm going to share my screen in a second. This is kind of how can I share my screen?
I don't know. We didn't talk about that.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I can't. Anyway, so if you Googled saving rates from 2020 to now, if you'd put my face on the screen, that would be good. Anyway, if you Google savings rates from 2020 to now, you're going to be surprised at all the things that come up. Which, is a personal savings rate. Like Scott, I know you can speak to this. What are savings rate? What do you know the savings rates to be? It's like
0.5 depends where you're saving, but in
right.
a bank,
So
it's less than 1% or about 1%.
If you're even just a little bit smart with arithmetic, knowing what you pay on interest rates versus what your savings rates are, who's winning in this? Like who's winning in the comparative? Your savings rate of your money is nothing. I mean, I'm sorry, comparative to any interest rate of a credit card, interest rate of a automobile, interest rate of your house. Having a savings that's yielding anything is not really yielding much.
Unless you're in crypto, I'll just have to say. But yes, in traditional.
So he can talk about that in crypto, but I'm talking about in traditional. And somebody in Google. So, Google, brings up people who ask, and somebody actually said, which bank gives 7% interest on savings account? And Google comes back and goes, currently, there are no banks with saving account that offer a 7% interest rate. If you can find a saving account with 7 API, you'll earn about 15 times more than the national savings rate.
Right.
What is your lowest credit card? What's
oh my
the
God.
rate?
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't it like
So
now it's like 18% or something?
That's right. So who's making the money here?
Not
Who's
us.
making the money here? It's not us.
I might be because I'm in crypto. Sorry, but
it's the banks. The banks are making the money. Okay, and we touched on the Federal Reserve just a little bit in a past episode, but we're going to get it more into that later about the Federal Reserve, which is not really federal. Just saying.
That's right.
They use that
Private.
They use that word to trick us, to make it us
Very
think it's
private.
some kind of governmental branch that it is not. So, if you didn't know that, there's your data for the day. So, so stability wise, okay. So if you look at that, like and then I looked at like utilities, like the utilities from 2020 to today, stability wise. I mean, it has exponentially increased. Like our utility rates have gone up, our savings rates have gone down, our interest rates have gone up. And then let's talk about the mortgage rates. Holy cow.
Holy
You
cow.
know, holy cow. They are a little insane right now. Um, they're dropping. They're supposed to drop. I talked
Supposed
to a
to.
mortgage lender the other day, and they said that in July, the mortgage rates are going to drop below 10%. Isn't that great? Like I was supposed to be really happy about that. So anyway, so I'm like, well, yay for me. Yay, 10%. So stability, stability wise, it's all over the place.
I would just
Now,
say it's unstable. That's very unstable you've just described.
stability is not what we would say. Okay, so if we go back to what I was showing earlier, okay, if you go down, okay, now even we're talking about war, okay, they put that from NPR. The battle for Rafah is being fought on Gaza's border with Egypt, and Cairo has warned that any spillover on its own territory could undermine its peace treaty with Israel, a long linchpin of stability in the region. Now, here's what I learned the other day. I don't know if you guys have been watching this, but they did go in to follow the tunnels under Rafah, where it went to. Where do you think it went to?
I don't even know. Is it like tunnels from Gaza, like into Egypt,
Rafah,
into Israel? I don't know.
Into Egypt. Went into Egypt.
Yeah.
So that tells you something as far as stability goes. Was it stable? Are they really a peace treaty, a linchpin peace treaty? I mean,
Yeah.
if their tunnels are going into Egypt, that tells you how they're getting in to those
Right.
tunnels.
Well, and it's just to even use the word stability with that region is crazy. It's the furthest thing from stable.
Along a linchpin of stability, and that guy that wrote that in NPR said it's stability. That region is not stable, has not been stable, and that's why I'm talking about this.
I think I know where you're going with this. But keep going. It's good. You're leading us down a path.
Leading you down the path. Okay, so let's put up there the definition of stability.
There we go. Sorry. There we go.
Okay, so this is just, again, Googling, okay, the sentiment, the quality, state, or degree of being stable, such as the strength to stand or endure, firmness, the property of a body that causes it when disturbed from a condition of equilibrium. Okay, that's in your body. Okay, if you scroll down. Okay. Isn't that interesting? That one kind of, I was like, residence for life in one monastery? Huh?
Yeah. What does that mean?
The only way that you're going to be stable is if you're in a monastery,
Right.
I guess.
I guess they are pretty stable. If you think about the monks or whatever, the nuns in the monastery.
Yeah, so keep scrolling down if you don't mind. So, sorry, we went, okay. So going back to stability, I think that we only think that we have stability in our own personal lives. Like the stability is not out there. Okay. So as we see, utilities are crazy, mortgage rates, interest rates, savings rates. These are things that impact our life, that it does actually impact our life. But what is stability to you? What is your stability? What is your foundational stability? Is it only on money? I mean, is it only on how many dollars you have in your pocketbook? Is it only on what type of house you live in? Is it what car you drive? I mean, I feel stable when my car runs. I mean, that's the
Right.
truth. It's the
Right.
truth. I can get from A to B. But like you and I talked about actually before the show about having a bicycle, if I had to and my car went out, use my bicycle. But what if my bicycle doesn't work? Well, then I use my two legs,
Your legs.
and I can walk. Right. Because I'm able to. But there are people out there that are not able to do those things. So stability to you is very unique. What is your stability point?
Can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I do. I think this is fascinating because I do think about this a lot. Yeah, and my first thought is this is lifing. This is life, right? Life to me is inherently unstable. And that's why what I think, you're going to get to, but it's like, okay, if life all around us is unstable, it's unpredictable, and just kind of moving through life can be challenging sometimes. What is it that what is it that makes me sane? What does it make anyone sane? What can we hold on to that we can at least feel a bit of stability, so we can breathe, and one of the things about Freedom Life 3.0 is trying to, we don't want to scare people, but we do want to, like, hey, look at this, take a second, look at this. But that can invoke anxiety. It can evoke that feeling of, oh God, what am I gonna do? Now I got this other thing to worry about. I get it. I mean, we get it. And part of it is then to come back to, okay, now what can we do? Right? How can we think? What can we do to still live a happy quality life and be free? So go ahead.
Your stability lies in your routine. If you think about having a good day, how do you start your day? What do you do? Stability. What is it that you feel like? Okay, today's a good day. I woke up today and I'm going to accomplish, X, Y, and Z.
Well, I'll tell you this: when I don't get to do my morning routine, and I wish it was better, but one of the things, part of it is to stretch. And to take, like on the days that I can get a good 10-minute, stretch in the morning, I do feel that really makes my day. And there are certain days I just can't get to it. And there's other things I can do. I wish I meditated more and some things. But, if I can get my coffee and stretch, usually going to be a pretty good day, or at least going to start out good.
Right. And just like the thing says about making your bed first thing in the morning.
I do that. Yes, ma'am. I do that.
People feel better about getting their day going, but what if you're just not that person? What if that doesn't matter to you? Then that's not your stability point. Your stability point is that you had coffee, you had your energy drink, you had whatever to eat, and you're able to go off to your job and your car works and you got there and everything, goes in routine. You can see where your stability point is in your routine, that you can definitely pinpoint what's important to you, on what you do daily, what things are important to you, and honestly, stability wise, you have a couple things that can stay stable for you. That's if you pay attention to it, like we were talking about earlier, your health is huge with stability. And then relationships with people. Your relationships with people can stay stable as long like anything that you nurture. You have to nurture it. You have to nurture a relationship. You have to nurture your plants. You have to nurture certain things for it to continue to grow and to be the best it can be, So you have to pay attention to that, and your health being number one, because that's you taking care of you. So your health is number one, as far as stability wise.
Which is why
If you can't walk because of your health, because you got diabetes and your feet aren't feeling good and you can't walk on your feet because of the diabetes, then that's a stability issue.
This is why C-19 and the vaccine was so easy for them to scare us all, because I think a lot of people, one way or the other, know that, and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to be unhealthy.
What they saw shake was their health and their employment. So I was going to get to that next about employment. Employment took a huge turn at that time, right? Like people lost their jobs like crazy. People couldn't do their jobs, they couldn't go to restaurants. The restaurants shut down for the moment. It affected a lot of people's employment. So that can't be where your stability is. You have to think of a plan B, always thinking of, okay, if this isn't going to work out, what is going to be plan B? What's my plan B? How am I going to go forward? So it's important for you to have your own personal stability and money. And, what will you do if, the world shuts down for a couple days? What's your plan B? So we always need to be thinking about those things. And that's what brings me to, I think we're already over. I think stability kind of took it, but not sure I'm going to get much into truth today, because really, just to summarize, because I was going to get into what truth is, but the truth is, it is in your stability. Your truth is your foundation. Your truth is, what is it you're focusing on? What is it you're allowing in here? What is it you're doing with this? How are you speaking? What are you watching? What's going in, and what's coming out of here, So your truth is really spoken all day long. You have to pay attention though. So truth is out there, but it's your truth, what you believe, what you believe to be true. It isn't what somebody tells you is true. It's what comes in here. What is your foundation, of truth? Where did you get your foundation of truth? Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever thought about your belief system and why you believe what you believe? Just like you and I, you're talking about C-19 and what you and I handled it so differently. And it's because of our foundation of truth. So I had a lot more information about health things than you had. So the fear factor was able to get you, but it wasn't able to get me, because I'm like, I know how this all works. Like this is not, there's something off. There's something wrong. So I knew that. But the reason I knew that is because of my experiences and because of my foundation. I had a foundation of healthcare for 30 years. So you didn't have that same foundation. You didn't have that same structure. You were able to just go, yeah, I'm going to let them tell me what I should do. And I'm going to question what you're doing.
Well, and it's interesting because we all have different points in our life and different areas that we can focus up, we can wake up on, or we have background on. One of the things I woke up to the financial system. That was my first big wake up, and that really is my mission. It's talk about freedom, but my real mission is to wake people up to the financial situation, because people just think that if I get this dollar bill in my hand and I go to work and I get this dollar bill, I'll be fine. And we're not. And I have to break down things. I had to learn to break it down, right? So like you were able to kind of break down like what they were telling you, break it down and say, is that really the truth? And your background allowed you to say, probably not. Now, when somebody says, well, crypto doesn't, it's not backed by anything, or, why should I worry about that? It's like, here's this dollar in my hand, and I have to break it down and say, that dollar gets weaker every year. Like, you're losing money every year.
It doesn't have backing.
And it doesn't have any backing. There's no gold behind it. There's nothing. So people don't think about that. So it's this critical thinking of it, and a lot of it, different things, different what your experiences are. But it's all good, right? We have to just take that and take that power, right? In your case, that was your health, which we know is really important. In my case, now it's really about finances and understanding I've got to really work hard now to catch up and go against the traditional system. I've got to take this information that, and knowledge that I have and believe it and then do something about it. That's the other thing, right? We got to, of all the stuff we're talking about, we also have to do something about it. We can't sit here and just talk about it. We got to do something about it.
Right. So I just want to end with, your stability, you create it. You create the stability.
Yeah.
It isn't created for you. I believe it is, faith-wise. I believe it is faith-wise. But even in faith, you have to act out things. So it takes you to act them out. God is not going to do it for you. You actually have to walk it out and do it. So therefore, the stability factor is in your charge. Like, you have to do something with it and about it. Don't just sit there and watch the TV mindlessly and listen to what they're saying to guide you in your day. That's insane. If you're doing that, that's where you're getting tripped up. That's where
you're probably going to have an unstable life, if that's your main source.
Because, right. You can change the channel and it's a different story. It's the same story, but a different version of the story. It's insane. That's where you have to sit back and go, okay, who do I trust for truth? Who do I trust for truth? So that's why we created this show to start, is for you to start thinking about it. Not that we're going to tell you the truths, not that we even know all of the truths, because we don't. But what we can do is we can guide you in a stable way as to how to understand truth and how to understand what you need to be doing.
Yeah, we want to talk about, these big words, truth and freedom. Big words to tackle, big ideas, big topics to tackle, and we're going to tackle them. That's what we wanted to create the show, talk about this stuff. We want to get you guys talking about it. If any of this resonated with you, please like the video. That does help us, and subscribe to the channel so you can get more, because we're going to continue to evolve these topics. Yeah, and share it out, because we want to just bring the tribe together, and as a tribe together, we can start to lean on each other, and we can also take some action. Let's squad up
and bring some guests on to also talk about these things. So
yeah, we're gonna start bringing.
Have an expertise in something, let us know.
Absolutely.
We don't know if you have expertise in something until you tell us.
Yeah, right. Well, we might vet you a little bit. All right. So, guys, thanks for watching. This has been Truth Bomb, and good show today, Sandy. And we'll see everybody next week on Truth Bomb.
All right.